Right.
That needs to be unmuted, correct? So I'm right now on the internet, right?
You're on the internet or on the webcam?
I'm on the webcam, but on the internet, not on the
You
internet.
are on the Wi-Fi.
I mean, on the Wi-Fi.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing?
I am on the Ethernet.
Right.
So if, you know, I can always unmute that computer. I mean, we were both on the Wi-Fi last week, which makes it less stable.
Yeah.
You're the only one?
Right. No, it'll have some breakages.
It may.
Well, no, it definitely will.
I don't know why. I mean, I don't understand it.
I don't either.
I mean, I literally plug mine in unless there's a problem with this. I'm gonna go just trace this one quickly. And you have to tell me when to let people in on the waiting room. Should I let people in?
Yes, definitely.
It's not. It's just this second. It turned on.
I know we usually let them in 10 minutes before.
There was literally nobody here until a minute ago.
Okay.
And they sound great. They could have gone different. We were just laughing about that
I need
video.
to step out for just a minute,
Okay.
and then I'll be right back and we can begin. Okay.
Are you Rabbi Rachel? And you're Rena? You have your names
Oh,
on your
yes.
faces.
So if I speak to these folks.
You just tell
Good
them
morning, Shabbat Shalom. We'll begin in just a moment. Thanks for everyone for being here, and thank you to those of you on Zoom. Be right there. Shabbat Shalom. Open up to our Siddur, beginning together, page 141.
משכנותיך ישראל, מה טובו אוהליך, אוהליך יעקב, מה טובו אוהליך, אוהליך יעקב. ואני תפילתי לך, אדוני, את רצון אלוהים ברוב חסדך, ענני באמת אישך. Page 151. It's a custom to rise together for the morning blessings, rising in whatever way we're able to do. לשם ייחוד קודשה בריחו שכינתנו, הנני מוכן וזמן לקבל עליי מצוות הששל, ואהבת לרעך כמוך, ובזכות זה הבטחתי. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חיל עמים, המעביר שינה מעיני ותנומה מעפעפיי. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חיל עמים, הנותן לזך ובינה, להבחין בין יום ובין לילה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חיל עמים, ברוקה הארץ על המים. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חיל עמים, פוקח עברים. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חיל עמים, מלביש ערומים. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חיל עמים, מתיר אסורים. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חיל עמים, זוקף כפופים. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חיל עמים, המכין מצעדי גבר. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חיל עמים, שעשה לכל צורכי. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חיל עמים, עוזר ישראל בגבורה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חיל עמים, עוטר ישראל בתפארה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חיל עמים, שעשני בצומו. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חיל עמים, שעשני בת חורים. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חיל עמים, שעשני ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חיל עמים, הנותן לאף כוח. We continue from our seats. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yatzar et ha'adam bechokma. Baruch atah Adonai rofech kol basar umafli la'asot. 165. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorai. Elohai neshama shenatata. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorai. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorai. אתה בראת, אתה יצרת, אתה נפחת בי. כל זמן שהנשמה בקרבי, מודה אני לפניך, אדוני אלוהי ואלוהי אבותיי ואימותיי, ריבון כל המעשים, אדון כל הנשמות. ברוך אתה אדוני, אשר בידו נפש כל חי ורוח כל בשר. Welcome in once again, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to our Zoom meetings. Just pausing here for a moment, Zoom people, to say, can you hear us okay? You're getting a mez, yeah. Well, we're doing our best here. Okay, we're going to continue now with the opening of the Psalms, following the themes on page 177 in English. And please join Baruch Hu, Baruch Shema. Blessed is the one who brings us full circle. Baruch Hu, Baruch Shema. Blessed is the one living forever. Baruch Hu, Baruch Shema.
We'll turn now to page 185, Psalm 19, another beautiful poetic way to bring us into the morning, and we'll ask Bess Berber-Ritchie to lead us. She will weave together the Hebrew and also the Rami Shapiro English that's below the line. So tune in and listen and join in.
השמיים מספרים כבודך, ומעשה ידיו מגיד הרקיע. יום ליום יביע אומר, ולילה ללילה יכבד.
Turn ahead to page 201, Psalm 136.
Odu l'Adonai ki tov, ki le'olam chasto. Odu Elohim chasto. לעושה נפלאות גדולות לבדו, כי לעולם חסדו. לעושה השמיים בתבונה, כי לעולם חסדו. לרוקה הארץ המים, כי לעולם חסדו. לעושה אורים גדולים, כי לעולם חסדו. את השמש לממשלת ביום, כי לעולם חסדו. את הירח וכוכבים ממשלות בלילה, כי לעולם חסדו. שבשליחנו זכר לנו, כי לעולם חסדו. ויפרחנו מצרנו, כי לעולם חסדו. נותן להם לכל בשר, כי לעולם חסדו. הודו לאל השמיים, כי לעולם חסדו. הודו לאל השמיים, כי לעולם חסדו. כי לעולם חסדו.
Ask us now to turn ahead towards the back of our Siddur, which has in it the beautiful poem Lamdeni, page 740 in the Siddur. And we've been bringing this into our service as a modern psalm written by the Israeli poet Leah Goldberg. And especially at this time of year when I feel like there's some special theology in the falling of the leaf, brings that question right into her verses. So just join me to say these words for a minute because they're new for us. Join me. Lamdeni Elohai,
Lamdeni Elohai,
Barech Vehit Palel,
Barech V'Hitpalel,
Al Sod Ale Kamel,
Al Sod Ale Kamel,
Al Noga Pri Bashel.
Noga Pri Bashel.
And we'll just get that much into our mouths for today. Lamdeni Elohai. The melody is by this beautiful Israeli duo, Yonina.
למדני אלוהי ברך והתפלל, על סודה לקמל, על נוגה פרי בשל, על החירות הזאת לראות לחוש לנשום, לדעת לייחד להיקשר. למדני אלוהי ברך להתפלל, על סודה לקמל, על נוגה פרי בשל, על החירות הזאת לראות לחוש לנשום, לדעת לייחד להיקשר. למד את שפתותיי ברכה ושיר הלל, והתחדש זמן חיים בוקר והימלל, ויהיה יומי היום כתמול שלשום. למד את שפתותיי ברכה ושיר הלל, והתחדש זמן חיים בוקר והימלל, ויהיה עלי יומי הרגל.
למדני אלוהי ברך להתפלל, על סודה לקמל, על נוגה פרי בשל, על החירות הזאת לראות לחוש לנשום, לדעת לייחד להיקשר. למד את שפתותיי ברכה ושיר הלל, והתחדש זמן חיים בוקר והימלל, ויהיה יומי היום כתמול שלשום.
למד את שפתותיי ברכה ושיר הלל,
והתחדש זמן חיים בוקר והימלל, ויהיה עלי יומי הרגל.
ויהיה עלי יומי הרגל.
Let's turn back to our biblical psalms to seal these moments of preparation. Page 231. Please join me just chanting together the last line of the last psalm. Kol ha-neshama tehalel hallelujah. Kol ha-neshama tehalel hallelujah. Kol ha-neshama tehalel hallelujah. Kol ha-neshama tehalel hallelujah. Hallelujah. Kol ha-neshama tehalel hallelujah. Let's rise together. Page 247 in the book. The phrases to call ourselves into community together, to activate our own authentic gratitude and connect ourselves with our awareness of that great source of life. Page 247.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
ברוך
אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, יוצר אור ובורא חושך, עושה שלום ובורא את הכל.
הכל יודוך והכל ישבחוך, והכל יאמרו אין קדוש כאדוני. 249, last line. המאיר לארץ ולדרים עליה ברחמים ובטובו מחדש בכל יום תמיד מעשה בראשית. המלך המרום לבדו מאז המשובח מפואר מתנשא ממות עולם. 251, last lines. אין קרקך ואין זולתך, אפס פרטך ומדומה לך. קרקך אדוני אלוהינו בעולם הזה, ואין זולתם מלכנו לחיי העולם הבא. אפס פרטך גואלנו למות המשיח, ואין דומה לך מושיענו לחיי עולמים. So the zoomies can see us as well. Page 253. El Adon al kol ha'ma'asim, baruch u'mvorach befi kol neshama, kodlo v'tuvo malei olam, tat u'tvuna sobevim oto, המתקהל על חיות הקודש ונזר וכבוד, על המרכבה זכות ומישור לפני חיסו, חסד ורחמים לפני כבודו. טוב מאור שברא אלוהינו יצרם בדעת ובינה ובחסקל, כוח וגבורה נתן בהם, להיות מושלים בקרב זבל, מלאים זיו ומפיקים נוגה, נעל זיום בכל העולם, שמחים בצאתם, מששים בבואם, עושים בהם הרצון ועונם, פאר וכבוד נותנים לשמו, צולה ורינה לזכר מלכותו, קרא לשמש ויזרח אורה, והתקין צורת הלבנה, שבע אדונים לו, כל צבא מרום, תפארת וגדולה, שרפים ואופנים, שרפים ואופנים, וחיות הקודש,
ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו במהרה לאורו, ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאור. Page 275 as we prepare for the Shema. Ve'avienu l'shalom me'arba kanfot ha'aretz, ve'tolichenu komamiut le'artzenu, ki el po'el ישועות אתה, הקרבתנו לשמך הגדול, סלע באמת להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל, שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Silent. Page 285. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם, ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם בדורותם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף פתיל תכלת, והיה לכם לציצית, וראיתם אותו, והזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים אלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמן.
We turn to page 291. We move in our prayers towards the Amidah. Tilod lel elyon baruch hu borach Moshe uMiriam u'bnei Yisrael lechanu shira b'simcha rabba ve'amru chulam mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh norah tehilot osef eleh שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמך על שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד Yisrael. Page 295. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. Ha'el ha'kadosh ha'gibor v'hanora el elyon, gomel chasadim tovim, v'koneh hakol, v'zocher chaleot v'imot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו ויהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני רב להושיע משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי כל חי ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות כל חי, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי כל חי. Page 303. נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום ככתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה על זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. אז בקול רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מתנסים לעומת שרפים, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון בקרוב בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך לדור ודור לדור ודור ולנצח נצחים בעינינו תירנה תירנה מלכותך כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך בעינינו תירנה תירנה מלכותך כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהי ציון לדור ודור הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. We continue with the words in the prayer book or the words of our heart, and we'll join together in a prayer for peace. Join together on page 323.
Shar Kochachen, Beth and Jen Sherman, and Beth Ritchie. We'll turn now to our Torah service. We have a very special honor to celebrate this morning, actually two special ones, but in addition to those two, we still have one aliyah that's open. And I'd like to ask if somebody here in the congregation would take that third aliyah. It's a support to the community to take the aliyah. So David Zradsky, thank you. We'll have you for the third aliyah, and we'll turn back to the Siddur, to the Torah Service, page 383. Could I also ask for a volunteer to come forward to have the honor to open the ark? Great, Martha, thank you. I'll invite you forward, page 383.
אין כמוך ואלוהים אדוני ואין כמעשיך מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים וממשלתך בכל דור ודור אדוני מלך אדוני מלך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yivarech et amo b'shalom, avarachamim etiva v'rtzoncha et Zion tivnei chomat Yerushalayim tivnei chomot Yerushalayim ki becha levad batachnu melech eram ben-Issa Adon olamim. Vayivin sohar Adonai ve'achutzu ovecha ve'anusu misanecha mipanecha ki mitzion tetzeh Torah ki mitzion tetzeh Torah u'davar Adonai miYerushalayim Baruch Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah le'amon Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Rachel, you're muted.
Okay, so now I can hear you that I'm muted. So let's see. Well, the issue is that there's, so for this morning, and please forgive me, this morning, because we don't have our usual hookup, I'm getting knocked off of Zoom, and every time it puts me back in, it mutes me, but I don't realize that. So I do need for somebody to call out, as whoever just did told me. Okay, so I'll begin again and say, we're in Genesis chapter 27, beginning with verse 28. Genesis 27, verse 28. If you're in the newer Chumash, page 180. If you're in the older Chumash, page 186. So one last time, page 180 or page 186. And ויעזור ויגן ויושיע לכל החוסים בו ונאמר אמן הכל הבו גודל אלוהינו תנו כבוד לתורה special עלייה יעמדו סטו סבן ורבן כוסים לעלייה הראשונה לעלייה הראשונה You heard that, right? I hope so. Okay. Baruch Shechan Torah Le'amo Yisrael B'Yem Chayim Kolchem Hayom. Tell me your Hebrew names. Rachel Bat. L'chaim.
Zev, Bar Tzvi, Nachum, Sasha.
Zev, Bar Tzvi, Nachum, V'Sasha. La'aliyah harishona. So Stu is going to be our reader, correct? And be right here, Vayitin. So Robin and Stu will invite you to take your talit and touch for that place. Close the scroll. And both of you hold on to the 18.
Baruch Adonai Hamborah.
Baruch Adonai Borach Le'olam Vaed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher karpanu li'avodato v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Robin, just hold that open for Stu.
Amen. Yitzen lecha Elohim mital hashamayim umishmanei haaretz. Baruch dagan v'tirosh yavducha amim yishachavu lecha leumim hevei gevir li'achecha yishachavu lecha b'nei imecha orecha aror mivarechecha baruch vayehi kasher kala Yitzchak levarech et Yaakov vayehi ach yatsa Yaakov ve'et pnei Yitzchak aviv ve'esav achiv ba mitzedo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam אתה בתוכנו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Shar Koach Stu. I'm going to cover this up for a moment here. And let me just ask you to step back that was a bit. Will I have you both
It's all
on your way to
all
good
you have
health
to do is
and
it's
taking this
all out
enormous
there,
step
the egg,
in your life?
the margarine and the goat cheese.
So
Just make it.
I'm going to ask for our Zoomies, please make sure that you're muted, as you may be having conversations that you don't want to share with the whole community. Stu and Robin, a blessing for you as you come to your wedding day tomorrow. מי שברך אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב ואמותינו שרה רבקה רחל ולאה, we call on the strength and the goodness and the healing blessing that came from the Holy One of blessing through our ancestors now to us. hu yevarech et Zev ben Tzvi Nachum
Sasha.
וסשה ואת רחל בת חיים ורחל אשר בקרוב יבוא בברית הנישואים. This beloved couple that is coming close, less than 24 hours, to their wedding day. יתמיד אלוהים אהבת כלולותיהם יברכם ויפרם ונחת ירבם. ויהי ביתם אשר יבנו בישראל. May that household that you build in the community of Israel and humanity, משכן אהבה ואמונה, נווה שלום וקדושה. May it be a sanctuary of real love and faith, a place of peace and holiness, and may all the time you have together bring you delight and love and be a place of learning and always good works, especially in saving our planet. V'nomar amen. Simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, Mazal tov. And before you run away, I want to say I skipped over the line in this blessing that is for a couple when they're looking forward to building a family. You've already, once we. So, but I want to acknowledge that you already have built a family, and that family is only going to be now by your marriage. And just want to invite Stu and Robin's family, maybe grandchildren who are Stu Mazel Tov also. Thrilled to have Mazal Tov. Yes, so we're going to send you outside right now to be our youths and with our good wishes. I don't know anything about it. Okay. Okay, we'll continue now, Aliyah. And let's see, Jonathan Epstein, could I ask you to just come up and be my gabbai? Ta'amod Amitza Levat Abraham Basara La'aliyah Hashniya. It's time for us now to call forward Marge Coffee.
Okay. Wait, tell me what verse you're on.
Yeah, verse 31. Let's watch the candy. I don't want to take this out of your way. And Marge, I want you to take your talit and just touch to this place that I'm pointing to. And close the scroll. You can lay your cedar down. We're not going to do that part yet. Okay. First, this. Hold on to these.
Baruch atah Adonai.
Baruch Adonai Hamurach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Leolam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kivachanu avatot v'natanu Torah. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Just hold that side open. Yeah. Continuing now with verse 31.
Vayas.
Amen. Vayas kam hu matamim vayavel le'aviv vayomar. Vayomer le'aviv yakum aviv vayocha mitzed beno ba'avur tevarchini nafshecha. Vayomer lo Yitzchak aviv mi'ata vayomer ani bincha bechorcha ואני בנך בכורך עשיו ויחרד יצחק חרדה גדולה עד מאוד ויאמר מאיפה הוא הצד צעיר ויבוא לי ויבא לי ואוכל מכל בטרם תבוא ואברכהו גם ברוך יהיה כי שמו אשא בדברי אביו ויצעק צעקה גדולה ויאמר אביו ברכני אבי באחיך
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet b'chayei olam natatenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ishar kochech. Marge, we've asked you to come here this morning so that you can bench Gomel to say the prayer for delivery from a difficult phase. And we'll ask the congregation to turn to page 401 in the Siddur. Page 401. And invite Marge first to say the blessing, and then we will respond.
Our God, the sovereign of all worlds, good things on one to you, who
Good and brought you to this time in good health to share that goodness with you, and we all say, let it be so, and please share with us.
well, invited me to come up and talk, and I speak for myself and for many of us for whom this has been a difficult both people here to celebrate the Yufrif, and for many of you and because I had had surgery, is how important community is and how that makes all the difference. When Rachel called to me after I had surgery, it was just this feeling, all of the memories, she mentioned something from the B-Men, and I got calls, and we got meals, and we got cards, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is what Adat Shalom is all about. In addition to that, I was blessed with having 3 children who constantly called to make sure that I was cognitively intact, since that had not happened last year, and that all was well. My grandchildren made homemade get well cards. And most of all, I was blessed to have a husband who was warm and kind and caring, and whose words were, it is my joy and my pleasure to take care of you. So I feel taken care of by the community. I feel taken care of by the staff and by all of you. And thank you so much, and hopefully many years and look forward. Thank you. Thank you.
Sending Marge back into the community with good health and strength. We'll take a pause here now to say blessings of healing for all the others in our circle of dear ones.
And as become our Zoomy tradition, please put the name or names in the chat. And for those of you who are here, if you want to stand, and then we're going to have an opportunity to say the name or names of people that we want to say this healing prayer for. Let's start over here.
Stewie Simon and Delilah Shapiro. John's girl.
And we hold also in our hearts all of the people and the people in the hospitals who are taking care of them, to bring them strength and courage. Mishbera refuah shlema, complete and full healing.
We'll turn ahead now to the Maftir, the third and final reading for this morning. We are now Genesis 28, verses 7 through 9. The last verses before the family finally disperses for good. Ya'amod David ben Benjamin Letova Lemaftir.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirvanu lavodato v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. Vayishma Yaakov en aviv ve'emo vayelech padena Aram vayares kiraot benot Kenan ve'enei Yitzchak aviach et Machana בת ישמעאל ben Avraham achot neviot anashav Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochim. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. We'll ask everyone now to rise and call forward Ya'amod Hamagbia, Mark Solomon, and if we could ask for a volunteer to be our golel or our golelet to roll the Torah and dress it, Audrey Lyon, thank you. Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe b'fnei bnei Yisrael. Shema beni musar avicha ve'al titosh Torah imecha. Shema I want to share some divrei Torah with you, but before I do that, I'm going to take this moment to make a public service announcement about Torah readers. We need you badly. We need you if you're willing to come from outside to be here, and those of you who are here. We have had a long tradition of members of the congregation laning, reading Torah from the community, and we want to continue that. And now that it seems to be safe to be back together, please join in and sign up. Torah reading is something that I actually love to do, but I think that it's even more important than me enjoying something I love to do for us to hear all of our different voices and to have the support of the whole community in maintaining this most beloved tradition. So, thank you. So some thoughts about this parasha. I began thinking to myself, this crazy Genesis family. We've already seen Abraham and Sarah and Hagar wrestle their sons apart. According to the Midrash, Isaac and Ishmael are united at Abraham's burial and make peace with one another, but it takes that long for their father to die. That's the only way they come together. This week we come to the famous story of the twins, Jacob and Issa. And of course, Esau first trades his birthright to his brother for nothing more than a bowl of stew. He appears to disparage his own place in the family as unimportant, and then only finds himself bereft when he's been tricked out of his father's blessing as a result. And at the end of the parasha, Isaac and Rebekah are fully empty nesters. They lose both their sons in the task of securing this birthright and blessing. And we can't help but ask ourselves, who's being sacrificed now? Earlier this week in our morning minyan, my eye landed on the devastating passage in which Esau comes to fully understand his predicament. He hears that Jacob has claimed the primary blessing, and it's one of those moments in the story where you feel the words screaming at you from the klaf, almost from the Torah skin itself. Habracha achat hi lecha. Is there really just one blessing you have to give? I had so wanted to Elaine that verse this morning and had worked on it, but I was not ready. Habracha achat hi lecha. Isaac, in fact, does come up with something for Esau, but it is clearly a second place blessing, a cold comfort for his son. In this one little moment, when we hear Esau's crying out, we hear the visceral trauma created by favoritism. The cry sounds like it comes from, he could capture elusive prey at the hunt, but in this moment, he's reduced to his essential vulnerability. His cry reaches our nerve center. We all want to believe that our parents have enough love and blessing for all their children. And of course, there's so much to say about this in the realm of family dynamics. Today, I want to explore with you for a few minutes how this dynamic plays out among people and religions, especially our religion. If you turn a few pages in the Chumash, you come to the Haftarah for this parasha from the prophet Malachi. Malachi was the last of the biblical prophets. History says that he may have died in 4th century BCE. Malachi, it's not even a name, but just identifying this writer as a messenger. He uses this Torah story, this story of choosing one over the other, to affirm his people's, our people's election by God. Malachi chapter 1, verse 2. chapter 1, verse 2. Ahati etchem amar Adonai, ba'arta Hi again, Zoomies. We were just reading through that verse from our prophet, Malachi. Startling, you'll never get over this, to see how this story of the twins, which already is an ancient myth by the time of Malachi, is the weapon of choice to secure his people's place in the hierarchy of God's love. Really? Malachi, whose beautiful words we know in our Haftarah blessings, who says that the possibility of a messianic time will be brought about when the generations of children and parents turn towards one another, when peace comes into our homes. That same prophet, as many other prophets did, enshrines this ancient story of the twins and of choosing one favorite one as the valid legitimization of religious triumphalism. In the essential task of survival, we can only make it if we're God's favorites. The literal language of religious or national chosenness appears later in the Torah. It comes up several different times. Maybe you would say it's in Exodus when the godly voice says to newly free Hebrew slaves, I will lift you up on eagle's wings. I always think that's such a beautiful passage, but such a troubling one. Or maybe you'd say it was even earlier in Exodus 6, when that same divine voice promises that the Hebrew slaves will be redeemed from slavery, and I will bring them to me, God says, to be my people. But we also have to hear this moment with Issa, not only as not only devastating for the poor elder brother, but also as a turning point where this notion of favoritism is put before us, and then in the hands of the prophets, spun out to apply to the whole nation in their writings, including Malachi's. This past Sunday, we had the tremendous gift of hosting guest scholar Dr. Elaine Pagels, historian of religion, author of several books on the founding ideas of early Christianity. She came to us with her own enormous storehouse of knowledge and her astonishing personal story, and left us, at least left me, wide-eyed with new questions and interests. She taught us from her own personal Torah and also shared with us passages from one of the secret Gospels, which was hidden and forbidden by the church for 2,000 years, almost 2,000 years, only to be rediscovered more recently. In our shared exploration with Dr. Pagels, we encountered a pre-Christian writing which might have changed the course of Judeo-Christian history had it been allowed to see the light of day. Among other things, this Gospel of Thomas, that was the text she shared with us, offered a different approach to this question of divine election. As we learned together, I couldn't help but feel one of my chronic questions rising up once again. And this is the question. Is religious triumphalism so basic to Judaism and to Christianity that they would fail to endure without it? In other words, if we pulled on one particular loose thread in the fabric of our religious tradition, would the whole sweater have to? They still do. Think yes. If you pull on that one thread, the whole thing comes apart. Mordechai Kaplan was famously excommunicated by the Orthodox Union of Jews for suggesting we'd be better off without it, that we'd be better off without the doctrine of divine religion. Yes, without religious triumphalism, without knowing ourselves as God's chosen, these Orthodox would say. And yet, like many of you, and maybe all of you, I don't know, I really can't stay in the room if my spiritual life is based on that presumption. I need to build my faith around a godly presence that has enough love for all of life, which may have given different gifts and roles to different peoples, but which encourages their potential equally. I need a liturgy which reflects this faith, which says of the human family, for giving us our own unique path, our own unique language, our own unique stories, foods, music, art, all of it, and for helping us find our place in the tapestry of creation. I wanted to share a passage from the Talmud, from Tractate Avodah Zarah, which quotes, which comments on Russia, comments on the early. Remember the Russia opens with Rebecca studying these twins, and she and response from God is in your heart, you inside, twin at war with one another, and one will be stronger than the other. The Gemara says, responding to this passage, is it possible for there to be intermingling? Each one must hear what God it's from that each nation has its access to that God source. The Kaplan came under such harsh criticism because it couldn't be without just insistence that we, perhaps it was useful at some point in our history, but it has also been the source of so much pain and suffering. We've been victims ourselves. So as hard as it might be to relinquish, that the sweater will still be just great, maybe even better. The next generation of our people are calling on us to do so, to help them find their way forward in marriage and in community. For now, I only wish I could call back to Issa and say to him, there is more than one blessing, and you need not be counted out. Imagine how differently here for Malachi, the rich and complicated history that we have. I'll start with the opening bracha. The verses from Malachi are page 191 in the newer plout, 341 in the older. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'neviim tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'b'Moshe avdo ובנביאי האמת והצדק. מסע דבר אדוני אל ישראל ביד מלאכי. Join me please if you like. אהבתי אתכם, אמר אדוני, ואמרתם, במה אהבתנו, הלא אך עשיו ליעקב נאום אדוני, האוהב את יעקב, ואת עשיו שנאתי, ואשים את חרב שממה, ואת נחלתו לתנות מדבר. כי תאמר אדום רוששנו, ונשוב ונבנה חרבות, כה אמר אדוני צבאות, המה יבנו ואני אהרוס, וקראו להם גבול רשעה, והעם אשר זעם אדוני עד עולם, ועיניכם תראנה, ואתם תאמרו יגדל אדוני מעל גבול ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה שנתת לנו לקדושה ולמנוחה לך, ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי, תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש שבת. Let's turn now to page 418. Join me to say prayers for our country. It's the custom here to stand once again as we're able. And Mark, if you're comfortable to come here. Yeah. Page 418. Sovereign of the universe, mercifully receive our prayer for our land and its government. Let your blessing pour out on this land and on all officials of this country who are occupied in good faith with the public needs. Instruct them from your Torah's laws. Enable them to understand your principles of justice so that peace and tranquility, happiness and freedom might never turn away the breath of all flesh. Waken your spirit within all inhabitants and plant among the peoples of different nationalities and faiths who dwell here love and brotherhood, peace and friendship, and all hatred and enmity, all dwelling, vying for supremacy. Fulfill the yearning of all the people of our country to speak proudly in its honor. Fulfill their desire to see it become a light to all nations. Therefore, may it be your will that our land should be a blessing to all inhabitants of the globe. Cause to dwell among all peoples friendship and freedom, and soon fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation. Let them learn no longer ways of war, and let us say, Amen. And now turn the page with me, and let's say the last lines of the prayer for the state of Israel, starting 4 lines from the bottom at the end. Ha'atzel meruchacha al kol yoshvei eretz kodshenu. Haser mikirbam sin'a ve'eva kin'a ve'rishut. V'ta ahava achva shalom ve'reiza goy el goy cherev ve'lo yilmedu od milchama v'nomar amen. Page 433.
יהללו את שם אדוני, כי נשגב שמו לבדו. הודו על ערך הרם כרם לעמו, תהילה לכל חסידיו, לפני ישראל עם קרובו. הללויה, hallelujah. Page 441. Ubnocho yomar, Adonai, Ot alfei Yisrael, ki lecha tov natati lachem, Torati etz chaim hi.
Really moved Jewish now, which is known really right in the last today, part of our community's Jewish and to share with us something about your work, please.
Rachel, we don't have video or audio.
In my first summer at Jewish summer, and so if you know it, I'm just going to sing the first verse. You're welcome. Oh, it's not working. You're welcome to sing along with me. Lechi lach to a land that I will show you. Lech lecha to a place you do not know. Lechi lach, on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach. So I can remember exactly where I was. I can tell you sort of the space that was around me when I first learned that song more than 30 years ago. And as I was thinking about how to talk about Jewish summer camp this morning, I kept coming back to it in my head because whether it was at Havaya or at any of the other hundreds of Jewish summer camps, there was this feeling this summer that kids were going someplace that was new. A land that I will show you, even if they had been with us for years and years and years. After the last year and a half of a pandemic, to be in a place with your friends and without your parents and out in the world was new. And we asked kids this summer what it felt like to be at camp. And they said to us, they felt happy, independent, complete, safe, loved, sweaty, at home, and grateful. I don't take that last one for granted. 2 years ago, before we could have imagined where we would be right now, I don't think that a group of kids would say that their feeling at camp was gratitude. And yet, after 679 days between the time our last campers left in 2019 and our first campers came in 2021, that sense of gratitude for being there for the kids and for us was palpable. Those 2 years were spent with us camps thinking about every last logistical detail. We were thinking how to engage families in a campy sort of way online. We were figuring out how to fill in what were unimaginable financial challenges. We were figuring out how to run camp, which is all about connection in the midst of a global pandemic where people needed masks and testing and more testing and more testing. And yet, when the kids finally showed up after all that planning and they came through the gate and they got yet one more COVID test, nothing like saying, welcome to summer camp, let's stick something on your nose and make sure you don't have lice all at the same moment. It's great. But we're so glad you're here. And then they went about the rest of their day. And you know what amazed me moment after moment this summer is just how normal it was. We asked kids during the first week of camp what it was that they were enjoying doing. And here's what one of our younger captains wrote. They really liked drawing at art, spending time at the pool, working on cool friendship bracelets, spending the day learning and practicing theater, singing along to the music in the cabin, boating on a paddle boat, sewing pillows, making bowls at ceramics, and having a camp-wide scavenger hunt in the rain. All of that could have been said in 2019 or in 2002 or in 5 years from now. That for all of the work and all of the planning and all of the thinking about COVID, at the end of the day, it was still about being together in camp. And for that, gratitude abounds. That's those moments of gratitude. In Jewish camps in particular, because that could happen at so many places, in Jewish camps in particular, it's the fact that that normalcy and that sense of connection is rooted in so many moments in Jewish life that for kids, they can't often put into words. There's a moment on Friday nights at Camp Havaya in particular, although similar moments happen at all sorts of Jewish camps, where kids get together to dance. For us, it's during Kabbalat Shabbat at Lecha Dodi, and the kids all come down and they dance, and there is this great energy. It's one of my favorite nights of the week in general. And this summer, we had our kids in different smaller groups because, well, COVID, and our teenagers, all wearing their masks, came down to the stage in our theater for Lecha Dodi, and we began to sing. And I can't exactly explain it to you other than to tell you I have goosebumps right now talking about it. And I could watch the energy of 2 years literally trying to ooze out every pore of their teenage bodies. We had to stop them twice because it was more of a mosh pit than it was a service. And yet, even as we stopped them for safety, we wanted them to keep going for the love. That they had waited and waited and waited to see their friends, and they had waited to be outside, and they had waited to be with other kids. And I don't think they would have told you they were waiting for Lecha Dodi. Right? They wouldn't have said that, but they were waiting for that moment when they could be together in community. And these stories happened at Jewish camps across North America this summer, time and again, in ways that our kids may not know it now, but they're going to remember it years from now. So this week's Parsha talks about blessings. Jacob asks for a blessing. We don't often ask for blessings in our lives, but he knew him. It was okay. He was going to ask. My 7.5-year-old asks for a blessing every so often. We give him blessings on Friday nights, and every so often on Tuesday, he says, "Can I have a blessing?" It's like we're a couple days early, but what I've learned is the blessing he wants is actually when we share with him what it is that my wife and I love about him. And it is for him, similar to our kids, what at camp this summer, it's what makes him feel safe, what makes him feel at home. And it's what shows him our gratitude for him. He doesn't really understand blessing at 7.5, but he knows that that sense of gratitude that we share is important. And for him, it's grounding. After this last 1.5 years, what our kids need so desperately is that grounding, is that sense of normalcy, is that ability to come together and to let it all out and to realize, whether they can put it into words or not, that the normalcy and the being with each other is in itself a blessing. And you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach. We'll see you at camp. Shabbat shalom.
I'm giving you a hug.
Yeah, okay. You never know these days,
I
right?
know.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take more. Thank you so much, Rabbi Isaac, for being with us and for helping us hold on to our adult optimism about the coming summer, about the coming spring, and our ability to engage with these parts of our lives that are so meaningful and lasting. We'll go now to our closing prayers. I want to acknowledge those people in our community who are in the beginning of a period of mourning. Charlie Richmond, who's remembering his mother, Marge Richmond, and there will be a Shiva in her memory a week from tomorrow, November 14th. We'll send out information about that on Zoom. Also, Lisa Hack, remembering her father, Harold Hack, and Preston Plouse, remembering his father, Bob Plouse, Bruce Kutnick, remembering his brother, Jerry Kutnick, all losses within the last few weeks. We also want to acknowledge those people who are in our community observing a yort site this week. I really prefer to name the name of our member in relationship to their relationship, but I don't have the full names here, so I'm just going to share the names of the deceased. David Feldman, Abby Goldenberg, Irma Gross, Ruth Freed, Sam Schuckman, Ira Sirota, Lola Green, Marvin Gross, Marilyn Siegel, Rebecca Adelson, Etta Rose Solomon, Arthur Reinstein, Jerry Katz, William Harvey, Morton Crow, Zelma Plaskow, Max Kahn, Robert Laufer, Carol Convisor, mother of our executive director, Rena Milchberg, and Ann Cohen, grandmother of Chuck Koenigsberg. The Kaddish is in our Siddur, page 451, and I'll ask those who are observing a yort site to please stand. Those who are observing a yort site on Zoom, please join us and stand as you're able. Page 451, יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה. בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמי. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. זיכרונם לברכה. And we'll come now back to page 445 and all rise together.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שנתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שבונות השמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובהי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אין את מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת, אין עוד. על כן נקווה לך תקן עולם בחושך כי המלכות שלך היא ולעולמי עד, תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה ושמו אחד.
Before we say our closing Kiddush, I want to invite Carol Levine, our board member in charge of personnel, to come forward for greetings, announcements.
Greetings and Shabbat Shalom. And Mazel Tov first to Robin and Stu on their big day tomorrow. Welcome, of course, to Rabbi Isaac, and hearing about Camp Havaya, which we know about, but hearing this delicious detail, this was just palpable. I want to know if there's a sign up for a second version for us so we can go. It is so important for the growing Jewish identity of our kids. We have so many wonderful events upcoming, and of course they're in social solidarity, and you can read about them. We are looking forward to the Music Shabbaton on November 19th and 20th to the with Rabbi Joshua Sharsky, and there'll be programs for all ages. They'll be in person and on Zoom. Make sure you look for the sign up on Social Solidarity and links to his music to hear a little taste of what's to come. The sign up date for the Reconstructing Judaism Conference coming up in March. Early registration date has been extended to this Monday, the 8th. Also, don't miss in this week's Chodesh Tov, it has a wonderful commentary by Rabbi Chazan Rachel on Hanukkah and democracy. And it's not Thanksgiving, but Hanukkah is almost right on its heels, and the Adat Shalom gift shop is open and full of wonderful handcrafted Judaica. And just let us know so we can get it ready and you can see some of the possibilities. So wonderful to see you all here and on Zoom. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Carol. Zoomies, thank you so much for your patience this morning. I know we lost you several times. I just did a quick mental accounting, and we will not be using this particular system that seems to be giving us so much trouble for the next several weeks. So you can rest assured that our connections will be up and running and give us time to sort out this one piece that's not working quite right. Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Let's say Kiddush together. V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. על כן ברך אדוני את יום השבת ויקדשהו, סברי חבריי. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. Just join me a word of gratitude to Jeff Weintraub and Bess Berberici, Jen Sherman. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avo. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, mevorach, Shabbat shalom, umevorach, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom.
unmute.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
Good
Hi.
idea, Steve. Great idea.
Well, I guess we're here.
Yeah, we're here too. It looks like we're making our own breakout room.
Shabbat shalom.
I would turn my camera on, but I'm not properly dressed. So.
Okay, we won't look. We won't, actually, I'm not even on. There we are. We won't look. How you all doing?
Steve, your challah always looks so fresh and good. You bake it every week?
Indeed. Oh, yes, yes. And
I
it always looks exactly alike each month.
Yeah,
each
beautiful. I have a question. In Rachel's wonderful Devar, she seemed to indicate, now she may not have meant it, but she seemed to indicate that if we didn't go the route of chosen, anti-Semitism would be either reduced or not existing. I honestly don't believe it. I don't think Kaplan believed it either. I think Kaplan removed the chosen because it was inconsistent with his theology. Obviously, you don't have an intervening God. You don't have a metaphysical God. You have nobody to choose. You haven't got any chosen. God doesn't choose. So getting rid of chosen, I don't think. I know people say, well, he got rid of it because of anti-Semitism. I don't think that was the major impetus. But my own feeling is that if you look at the history, and I'm not going to speak forever, but if you look at the history of discrimination against people, chosen, for most of the people who get discriminated have nothing to do with it because they're not Jewish and they don't have a theology of chosen. So, you have, the people who were black or even the Nazis against Jews didn't use chosenness. They used this kooky concept of the master race, which really had nothing to do with chosenness. So, the Russians against the Jews didn't use chosen. So my own feeling is, unfortunately, it isn't that simple. I don't know if she meant it, to
I don't
be
know
that
if
way.
she can hear us or not. We have her picture here, so maybe she can answer that. I don't know if she's.
Oh, is she on?
She's on our screen. I don't know.
Oh, Rachel, are you there?
I don't think she knows she's still here. She seems to be frozen.
The frozen people, right?
It's cold out there today. So we got woken up at, I don't know, about 6 a.m. by the neighbor says, your dogs are visiting us. That's how they got out.
Oh my God.
That was my frozen day. I don't know, sort of a non sequitur. Anyway.
Well, I hope everybody is enjoying the beauty of this time of the year. I just pulled up a picture I took yesterday while I was out kayaking.
Oh, where is that from, Steve? Steve, where is that?
This is on the Occoquan Reservoir, which is near Woodbridge, Virginia. Beautiful stretch of the Occoquan River as it empties into the Belmont Bay, which is near Mason Neck State Park, a bald eagle preserve, which is one of my favorite spots. But it's a lovely stretch, and just about anywhere you can see some lovely trees. But I love to be on the water and see them like this shot.
Mason Neck is right around the corner from a new George Mason research lab, isn't it? I don't know whether you've been over there.
That I'm not aware of the research lab, but that would make sense. There is George Mason's home, which is along the same, the same road that leads down to
Environmental Department opened a 6 faculty member lab there about 10 years ago. And
from what university?
George Mason.
Oh, George Mason. That would make sense. Yeah.
So how far is that from Washington, where you were yesterday?
You're on mute, Steve. You're on mute, Steve.
It took me 35 minutes driving from my Falls Church, my home on the Arlington Falls Church line, to get to the point where I put my boat in. If that's one indicator. I mean, basically depending on how quickly you can, a lot of it is based on traffic, and I look at the traffic to decide where I'm going to go. Mason Neck, which I consider the gold standard for my getting away, so to speak, getting away from the urban area, is off the Lorton exit off of 95 South. Again, it takes me, if traffic is not an issue, it can take me about 30, 35 minutes. That's all. And I imagine I'm coming from, like I said, we're off of 66 in Falls Church. But if you're coming from DC and you hop on 395 and continue down south, it's probably no more than 30 minutes, 20, 30 minutes. There is this, once you get off on Lorton, then you have this nice long drive along this peninsula that leads to the Potomac River, and Pohick Bay is on the left and Belmont Bay on the right, and Mason Neck, which is, like I said, a bald eagle preserve. And one of the rangers there told me they typically have throughout the year, perennially 50 eagles or so that are residents. And during the migration season, as we're coming into it, it swells to 100 eagles.
Wow.
And to see a bald eagle in flight, to me, is just ethereal. I love it. And there is at least one nest that is prominent along the banks of the creek that you access either from hiking trails or from a boat in the Mason Neck State Park.
Well, anything that's bald is beautiful.
I'm with you there, Stan.
Hey, Steve, wasn't it cold out? What kind of clothes do you wear when you're kayaking?
Well, yesterday, which was high around 52, but it was like today, brilliant sun, very light winds. I have yacht pants, which are just basically what I wear when I'm biking anyway. So it's long slacks. That's not a very heavy material. And I wore a t-shirt and a sweatshirt on top of that, but a thin sweatshirt. And that's all. I do have, and in fact, it's the first time I've used them. I have these galoshes, high calf galoshes that I just put on hiking socks, and then I slip these galoshes on the top that go up to my calves, and that's mainly when I'm putting my boat in or taking it out. I have to step in the water, and they are waterproof, and I can keep my feet in the colder weather. Last year, I'd say through the winter, if it was 45 degrees or more and sunny, I would be in my boat, because the pools were closed, so I couldn't do my regular swimming. And boating gives me some upper body exercise, which I love.
How crowded is it there? Is there a lot of people there? Is it very crowded there, Steve?
I was the only kayak on the water. It was where I put in, there was 2 boathouses nearby, one George Mason University. So there were some crew teams out on the water practicing, and a few scullers, individual scullers. And there's also a boathouse at high schools, some of the Northern Virginia high schools use. So often I'll find certainly a couple kayakers like myself, and there'll be several pontoon boat or flatbed boats with fishermen and women in them, with with their little 1 horsepower motors. Oh, lovely cat there, Carol.
Yeah, I love that, Carol. That's wonderful. What's his name?
Berkeley.
Berkeley?
Berkeley, California.
Yeah, I love it. Except for the fur around the house, I bet he's a pleasure.
Yeah, there's a lot of fur.
Yeah, we have a very furry Bernedoodle now, a Bernese Mountain Dog mixed with a poodle. I've never seen so much hair in my whole life. But he doesn't shed too much. Oh yeah, there you go. There's another pussycat.
This is Sirius Black.
Oh, nice. From Harry Potter or what?
For short.
Does anyone want to hear a crew team Jewish joke?
Oh yes, please.
Okay.
Please.
Yes. So there was a crew team from a yeshiva, and it always came in so far last in its competition with other crew teams. It was way, way, way far behind. And it went to the Rebbe and it said, Rebbe, pray for us so that we won't come in so far last, we'll come in first, but time and time again, they just came in so far last. So finally they went to the Rebbe and they said, Rebbe, come to the competition and maybe you can figure out why we always comes in last. So he went to the competition and afterwards he said to them, you know what? In all the other crew teams, only one guy is shouting, but in your crew, everybody is shouting.
That's a good one.
Yeah, they have a lot of different views. No right, no left.
I remember I rode crew for a couple of years when I was at Drexel University in my undergraduate days up in Philadelphia, and we had a coxswain who was yelling at us, but he was from Korea and had a very strong accent. Nobody could ever hear what he could understand what he was saying, but just the volume of his yells would, we'd say, hey, what's he saying? Oh, I don't know. Let's just do this. So the seniors in the back of the boat, they're the ones that really set the tempo.
Wow.
If anybody actually, if anyone has not seen it or read it, The Boys in the Boat is a great story. It's these working class kids out of Seattle, I think it's Seattle, who go to the University of Washington, and there's no expectation this is back, I forget, may have been at the beginning of the 20th century. And the only rowers of note were from the Ivy League schools and all that. And these out of the blue came on and went on to the Olympics or something like that. So it's a good story, a good human interest story.
It's a movie? It's a movie?
Yes, it was. I'm pretty sure it was a movie. That's what I seem to recall. Boys in the Boat is the name of it.
I think I've seen it. I think I've seen that. Yeah. No, it's great. Well, except for the reception today, it was a fun service. I couldn't hear half of it.
Yeah, I've already emailed to Rabbi Rachel if she could share her devar on the listserv. So it would go several.
I don't know. I guess they tried another type of service.
Yeah, I thought Rabbi Isaac's devar was just wonderful.
Yeah, he was fun.
I think he really. I have a grandchild that goes to the camp, as you all probably know. I'm one of the founders. I'm also one of the founders of the camp, so I'm very, very much connected with the camp, and also connected with Rabbi Isaac. But I think that he's an amazing guy. He really is the perfect camp director. He has all the qualities that you'd want in a camp director, both spiritually, religiously, and administratively. We're extremely lucky, very fortunate to have Rabbi Isaac as the director of our camp. We send, by the way, for those folks who may not be that familiar with the camp, Adat Shalom sends the largest contingent of campers to Camp Havaya in the United States. We're the biggest contributor of campers to Camp Havaya, which has always been the case.
And I contributed 2 kids to being counselors there.
Oh, how do you like that? That's great. I contributed
one to be a full camper through counselor, and one who got hooked on it as a counselor and
great.
Well, we need an adult division there so we can all go there.
Well, they used to. Now this is pre-COVID. Now I don't know what they're going to do. They used to have what you might call an after camp for adults, like for a week or 5 days, where the adults can come up and live in the camp, live in the bunks and stuff. Now they haven't done that for 2 years, so I don't know what they're. I don't know whether they'll be doing that this summer or not. I think it will depend a lot on what's happening COVID-wise But they used to have an opportunity. Thank you for asking. They used to have an opportunity to have adults, but it hasn't happened since COVID for obvious reasons. So I don't know what's going to happen.
But I didn't understand. I didn't catch what he talked about all the planning they had around COVID this summer.
Yes.
I didn't know exactly what they did.
Well, they did. They did distancing. They had the bunks were spread out. They managed to, and their way in which they did it in pods. They tested like crazy because some of the kids. Well, the older kids might have been vaccinated, but most of the kids weren't vaccinated because we're too young. Remember this idea of vaccinating kids below 12 is only recent. So that didn't happen. So anybody between 7 and 12 was not vaccinated because they couldn't be. So they did a lot of testing. Well, he said that testing. And the wonderful thing about it is, and of course the counselors were all vaccinated and et cetera. They couldn't be hired unless they were vaccinated. But the wonderful thing about it is that nobody this summer got COVID in the camp. Now they may have gotten it after it, but not from the camp. But nobody. The camp did not produce any COVID cases this summer, which I think is a great tribute to Isaac and his team, the way they managed the camp. So that was terrific.
How did the pods work? I mean, was it?
I'm sorry, the lunch bell is ringing. Shabbat shalom to everybody.
Shabbat shalom. Yeah,
be well. I love you, another pussycat too. Thank you.
Yeah, this is
cat. Great.
Loading.
I don't know exactly how the pods work because unfortunately, because of COVID, they didn't let us visit the camp. What they did is when you brought your child or grandchild to the camp, you had to let the child off in the entrance to the camp, and one of the staff, the counselors or Isaac or one of the senior staff would greet the children and bring them into the camp. So if you went to the camp, you could not go into the camp, which was a great disappointment to me. But I understood the reason. I didn't protest that I had to go into the camp, because I've done it before. I brought children up to the camp and then went to see Isaac and went to see the bonk and talk to the counselors. What parents would ordinarily do, or grandparents couldn't do it. So I wasn't that familiar with the exact, physical layout of how they did it, but they certainly did a great job. There's no question about that.
Was enrollment the same? Was it or down? Was enrollment
less? Yeah, it was pretty good.
With fewer campers, easier to do distancing.
What's that, Karen? What?
With fewer campers, it's easier to do distancing.
Well, I think they limited the number. I mean, they had to make a cap on. You're right. I mean, that's the point. I mean, you couldn't have if a cabin ordinarily would hold 10 kids and 2 counselors, a regular counselor and a junior counselor. You couldn't do very much distancing.
So, and is what you've said, did that apply as well to the West Coast branch of?
No, the West Coast branch doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, they couldn't make it to go. It turns out it was a good concept, I thought. It was supposed to be an arts camp, because it's West Coast arts and theater. Well, it turns out that the culture of the West Coast is very different from the camping point of view, probably other points of view, than the East Coast. The people on the West Coast are not campers. Children, they're not like people from the Midwest or the East Coast where we get most of our kids, obviously, or even the South. So that you don't have a large catchment area, so to speak, in the West Coast because they're just not a camping culture in the West Coast. So they tried it.
There's not a camping what?
Culture.
Oh, that's not true.
For kids, I'm talking about for kids.
That's not true.
Well, it was true with our camp.
And maybe it was true with your camp, but there's lots of camps. There are Jewish camps. There's a Jewish camp in Malibu. There's a Jewish camp.
Are they successful?
Yeah, and there was a Jewish camp in Navarro Beach. Jewish camp in
Really? Didn't know
Uganda.
that. Tryout camp didn't make it. I mean, that was the explanation that was given to the board, that basically we couldn't make it because people just didn't send
Well,
it.
the last several years, there have been problems with drought and wildfires. So I don't know about the last several years.
Well,
But
we got going for a couple of years, but then it sort of died out.
Well, my nieces and nephews went to camp, Jewish camp in Malibu every year. And other relatives went to Jewish camp in Navarro. And Lahonda was, it wasn't all summer camp. I mean, it was a campground. I don't know, it might've been the YMCA owned it, but there was music camp there, Jewish camp, Girl Scout camp. It sort of rotated through the summer. So like every week there'd be different outdoor education camp off summer. I was a counselor there.
So how long did the kids go? Was it a week thing, or was it 6 weeks or 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
Week. I don't know about, it seemed to me that the Malibu camp was longer, but the one in Lahonda was 1 week long. So, because you share the campgrounds with other groups, right? So it's not.
Well, that may have been the problem. I don't know whether people are willing to send on the West Coast, whether they're willing to send kids for 3 or 4 weeks at a time to camp.
Well,
That may be the problem, because
with the wildfires now, no one's camping.
nobody's camping. Yeah.
No, not in the summer.
Well, it's
So
hard to
once you
run.
get beyond this pandemic, maybe though there's a pathway forward to do some benchmarks or whatever the term is, to see what's the lessons or the practices of those Jewish camps that have been in good stead and continues in the West Coast, and see if Camp JRF can resurrect.
Yeah, I know. They changed it to Havaya, which I was very opposed to, but that's a whole other story. They changed the name, trying to make it more universal.
I know. I get tongue tied when I try to say it.
Yeah, but anyway, it's the same camp.
I just call it Camp Hala.
Yeah, Camp Hala. That's a good one. That's what they should have called it. Should have called it Camp Challah or Camp Matzo Ball. What do you think? Camp Gefilte.
Camp Challah. Use the picture behind me as the
logo,
as the theme picture for the camp, and you get everybody to come. At least I'd come.
Yeah, camp logo with this beautiful Challah. We could use that as the logo. That's Steve. You're a natural marketeer.
I did a little of it for my university. Yeah, I think it's in the blood for my uncles who worked South Street in Philadelphia, and would say, "Oi, have I got a suit for you?" And they bring in even to their nephews. They give me the sales talk about how we're gonna trim it here, we'll trim it there. The suit will fit you just fine.
Right.
That's right.
That's right. You're a natural salesperson. Anyway, the long and short of it is, and Carol may be right. Maybe that's not the reason. That's the reason that
it could be. There's too much competition for that camp, because
there's a lot of competition here.
Before the wildfires, camping was extremely popular. And there are camps all over California.
But did they send people for a long period of time, or just for weeks at a? I mean, was the culture for like a whole season or a half season, or?
No. I don't think there was. I don't know. I'll have to ask Anthony what his experience was, but my experience was the camps at Lahonda where I went was a week at a time. But I can ask him. I know that the Malibu camp, which is horrendously expensive, was much longer than a week. I think it was. I mean, I can ask my nieces and nephews.
Yeah, because it's hard to run a camp.
It was very exclusive, and my nieces loved it. My nephew hated it because he was with these really rich, snobby kids.
How prevalent are congregations that are affiliated with the Reconstructionist movement that are west of the Mississippi. I mean, are there a lot on the West Coast? I have no idea.
Yeah, there's some very large ones. The largest one, I think, is KI. I think it's like 3,000 people. There's a couple of big ones on the West Coast.
So
I mean,
enough to have a younger generation population
yeah,
that could go to, that are age appropriate.
yeah, I think that's right. I think that's
Yeah.
right. The one I think in Los Angeles is one outside of Hollywood, and where some of the actors like Billy Crystal belong. And yeah, I mean, there are several that are on. I mean, there are more here
Billy
because
Crystal's a member of a Reconstructionist congregation.
Yes.
Wow.
But there's
Any other names that we would know at the?
No, I'd have to ask. I don't. We don't really keep track of that, but I would have to ask Rabbi Isaac. He would know. But I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are other. You know, there's so many Jews out in Hollywood. I mean, they have to be somebody. But
sure.
Yeah, I'm sure that there are other famous or semi-famous people in the entertainment world that are members. I mean, it would attract, that some of those kind of people would be attracted.
Well,
if you go to synagogue at all.
The more important message is, I think, what Carol mentioned, which is that Jewish camps are not a no-brainer, are not absent from the West Coast. So maybe there's.
But they may. There's not. There are probably just not that many people interested. Jews may be interested in sending their kids to a Jewish camp. Because there's lots of different kinds of camps. So there's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of competition here too. I mean, maybe even more than the West Coast. We got the whole Ramah system. I mean, my kids, not my grandchildren, but my kids. I was on the board of the camp at Palma, which was the Ramah camp that our kids went to. And Ramah was that was the camp. A lot of people in this area sent their kids to, which was a Ramah camp, because Camp JRF or Havaya didn't exist. There were no.
But I also seem to remember there were kids whose parents sent them to the camps back east where they went to camp. So there's this family tradition.
Yeah.
So if your parents were, had gone to a camp that still exists, because have closed.
Yeah, well, we get as far as. I'm sure we get somebody from the West Coast. Basically, we get people from Ohio, and we get people.
But the fact there's no camping culture in the West Coast is not true. I mean, there's lots of.
I gather that, yeah.
Yeah, it might be just in the Jewish community.
Either that, or they mean that there's no camping. There's little camping culture for long periods of camp. Because we can't run a camp only a week. It's just economically impossible for us to run a 1 week camp. Because you have to hire, so many people. And we get a lot of people. We try to, although less. This summer.
My nieces were they were camping.
I think the message from Carol is others have done it. So whether we can or can't, I guess really
look into it. It would be great to have one.
The will is there to look at the best practices of some camps that have survived, and then maybe.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, because of the fires, I don't think there's any camping going on.
Yeah, that may not be.
And that's been true for the last 3 years.
Carol, how are you doing health-wise?
I'm doing great.
Great.
How about you?
That's good.
How about you? Three.
Well, here, how about Annabelle? How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Kanahara, as we say in French.
Kanahara, yeah, that's my grandmom always would say that. Kanahara.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Since you guys are so well connected, I'm going to put a plug in. Annabelle is a leader in her community for Jewish practices, and last year.
What community is that? May I ask?
It's Annabelle, why don't you describe your community? Ingleside
I,
Farms.
yes, Ingleside King Farm, and there are about over 500 units here, and 40% of the community is Jewish.
Oh, that's
And
great.
I am chair of the Jewish Events Committee, and so I make sure that for all of the Jewish holidays, there are lots of events to celebrate in the community. And also on the holidays, we have a table out in a prominent place where we put liturgical things that are prominent, so that when people come into the community, they see a Jewish presence. And whether it's marketing or whatever, but also we have a description of what the holiday is about. And it's a really good Jewish feeling for the community in general. And we do it in both of our big buildings. So that's what I make sure happens. So right now I'm setting up a Hanukkah committee meeting for Wednesday, so that we have lots of events for Hanukkah. And we also have a Hanukkah candle lighting in person and singing. And Rabbi Schneer is coming to give us a concert, and with another musician. And we'll also have candle lighting and singing on our in-house television for the people on the 7th floor who are in skilled nursing and in assisted living, who are not well enough, and who are also in their apartments who are not well enough to come down to the Cultural Arts Center and participate in in-person candle lighting and group singing and such, and in the concert. So
Great.
and the other events.
What town is this, Annabelle? What city
In
or town?
Rockville. In
Rockville?
Rockville. Yeah.
Well, the reason I mentioned it was because we were talking about camping, and Annabelle tried to organize a Sukkot, but their community is so big, they couldn't find a sukkah big enough, right?
Right, it's true. But we're going to try again next year. We had a wonderful female rabbi, Rabbi Rachel Schwartz, but unfortunately she resigned. So I have to be kind of a quasi-rabbi as well as chair of the Jewish Events Committee. But
I'm getting a call. I've got to get off. But Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shalom, Stan.
Great to talk to you all.
Shalom.
Annabelle, I wonder if it would be of use, or if it hasn't been tried, to get a student rabbi out of the rabbinical college, the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College, to or I'm not sure how they get their assignments or how they cycle through their program at the rabbinical college before they finally become a pulpit rabbi somewhere. But maybe there's some way of taking on or adopting your community as a place that they would send on rotation students that are close to graduation, if that would be of interest to you.
I think they want a full-fledged rabbi who would, but maybe they would take a student rabbi. I will talk to the chaplain and also to the executive director. I think it's a good idea. I would love to have a Reconstructionist rabbi here.
Well, just think of, Rabbi Fred having been the student rabbi to Rabbi Sid in our early days. We have such, I'm sure, such up and coming talent coming out of that college that might welcome some time spent in Rockville and in the area. And it's not that far to drive down from the Philly area if that's where they're doing their schooling.
Yes, that's a lovely idea. Thank you, Steve.
My pleasure. So I
guys, I have to go too.
yeah, it's a good time to move on to Shabbat naps or lunch or whatever.
Yes.
Stay well, everybody. Shabbat
It's lovely
shalom.
seeing you all, and thank you for sharing your experience yesterday and the beautiful fall foliage, Steve.
Oh, yeah, I encourage everybody to get out. We're going to have some lovely days, at least up through Wednesday. It's going to be back in the 60s on Monday, I think.
Well, I'm not able to do that sort of thing yet, but Anthony promised to take me on a walk on a track in the neighborhood elementary school today. So that'll be our first walk together since I broke my hip.
Oh, good.
Nice, Mazel Tov.
Thank
Well,
you.
continued good progress in that realm.
Thank
I
you.
know having gotten a new hip for arthritic reasons, how much I appreciated my mobility beforehand, and then gradually appreciated it as it returned to strength.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a
Shabbat
great day.
shalom.
Bye.
Bye.